Positioned at a crossroads between the Great Plains and Rio Grande Pueblos, Pecos rose to power as a regional trade center. At its peak, the Pueblo housed a population of nearly 2,000 residents, reaching 4 or 5 stories high. Join me today as we explore the rise and fall of Pecos Pueblo. People lived in the Pecos area as hunter-gatherers since around 11,500 BC. They moved seasonally through diverse landscapes that supported various wild plants and game. When the climate changed after the Ice Age, large animals like mammoths and camels went extinct, making the people adopt new strategies to hunt bison, pronghorn, and other smaller mammals. Cultivation of corn, around 4,000 years ago, laid the foundation for transition to an agricultural lifestyle. Over several hundred years, people began incorporating new foods, like beans and squash, into their diets. However, they continued to move seasonally. The nomadic lifestyle gradually gave way to a more sedentary mode of being, as families stayed longer in one place so they could tend their crops. By 800 AD, an early village of pit houses had emerged near Glorieta Creek, south of the Pecos Pueblo. Fertile lands along Glorieta Creek and the Pecos River yielded crop surpluses, which in turn supported larger settlements. To accommodate the growing population and need for storage, residents built multi-room, above-ground structures that the Spanish later named Pueblos. By the 1300s, some Pueblos in the region had over 100 rooms. The first pottery produced here was plain, followed by black on white, using carbon-based paint. People began occupying the Pecos Mesa in early 1300s. By the early 1400s, people had left most of the surrounding smaller villages to gather at Pecos Pueblo. This aggregation offered a chance to pool resources, centralize trade relationships, and share in self-defense. The first glazeware pottery was produced during this time. By 1450, Pecos Pueblo rose 4 to 5 stories surrounding a central plaza. Small seasonal farming villages, or field houses, remained around the Pueblo. Nearly 2,000 people lived at Pecos, making this easternmost Pueblo the center of human habitation in the upper Pecos Valley. Today, only a small stretch of room blocks have been excavated, but the immense size can be felt walking through the layout of mounds. The first polychrome pottery was produced during this time. Pecos Pueblo stands at the crossroads between the Great Plains and the Rio Grande Valley Pueblos. Trade with Plains people, especially Apache, helped Pecos flourish. Coming from the plains to the east, Apache traded bison meat, hides, and flint for locally grown crops and pottery. The strategic location was a natural meeting place for people from near and far. Ceremonial items such as macaw feathers from Mexico, abalone shells from the Pacific, and freshwater shells from the Great Lakes were traded. Closer to home, other Pueblo people came to Pecos, offering ceramics, obsidian, and turquoise. Francisco Vázquez de Coronado led the first Spanish expeditions north from Mexico in search of gold and silver in 1540. They found no such riches, and many Pueblos resented their presence. Pecos and other Pueblos convinced Coronado to turn his attention instead to Quivira, a legendary province far to the east, teeming with wealth. The hoax succeeded. Weakened by this hopeless expedition, the Spanish eventually retreated south. When Governor Oñate came to New Mexico in 1598, he brought along 400 soldiers, colonists, and Franciscan missionaries to establish the first permanent Spanish settlement in the area. The economy of this new province centered on farming, ranching, and trade. The mission church standing today was completed in 1717, constructed on top of the larger original mission footprint of 1625. As the Spanish Empire sought control over New Mexico, different motivations were at play. While the governors sought gold and wealth, the Franciscan missionaries were after converts. The first mission at Pecos was constructed between 1617 to 21, located too far from the Pueblo to be effective. By 1625, the Franciscans were allowed to build a new mission church, just 600 feet south of the Pueblo. The attached convento acted as storage, workrooms, and living areas for missionaries and any Pueblo converts. Exploitation of Pueblo labor, interference in the traditional religion, along with forced tributes of food and goods, led to the Pecos people joining nearly 30 other Pueblos in a successful revolt against the Spanish in 1680. During the revolt, the mission and convento were burned, the adobe walls reduced to mounds. In 1692, the Spanish returned to New Mexico under a new power dynamic after the Pueblo revolt. During this time, expansion and increase in raids by the Comanche, coupled with disease and famine, catalyzed decline at Pecos. Glazed pottery is no longer made, and in 1776, only 269 people remained at the Pueblo. A peace treaty was enacted in 1786 between the Comanche, Spanish, and Puebloans, ending major hostility. Finally, in 1838, the last remaining Pecos people went to Jemez Pueblo, the only other Toa-speaking Pueblo. Today, the site is protected by the National Park Service as part of Pecos National Historic Park. The park preserves over 800 archaeological sites, including remains of the Santa Fe Trail and the Civil War Battle of Glorieta Pass. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to the channel and join me on our next adventure.